Hello, I'm Lucas Herman. This is my formal assignment number 3. Are we living in the greatest country on earth? Well, let me tell you, it's up to debate. It was comforting thinking that you lived in the greatest country on earth. I like to do math when I was a kid. I like to take a statistical approach to fate. I'd often get lost in thought pushing a noisy old mower around my parents' yard. Well, I certainly wasn't enjoying my assigned chores. My sisters got to vacuum and dust in the air conditioning. But we aren't here to talk about the absurdity of gender roles. I would start a train of thought while I was pushing the mower around and start with the population on Earth. And back then it was considered around 5 billion people, and there were about 250 million people in the United States. So I took it as how lucky was I to have been born in the United States with a 1 in 20 chance. Fate gave me a 20-sided die, and I got the best possible outcome to be born in the greatest country on Earth. This idea that America was exceptional wasn't just an idea I thought just Americans had either. I'd been told that people are immigrating here all the time because this is the land of opportunities, how other countries thought our streets were paved with gold. Obviously, they must have thought we were the greatest country on earth as well. And that was my absolute truth when I was young. But can an absolute truth hold up against time? How the ideas seem to have saturated my environment 30 years ago? And 30 years may not seem like a long time for a nation, or it is depending on your perspective or mindset. After so much time, what absolute truths I held as a kid, or even as a young adult, do I still hold? I'm not sure I hold any absolute truths unless we're talking about fire is hot or things of that nature. If I look back on the 80s and the early 90s when the Cold War kind of ended, perhaps my absolute truth was held by many, maybe not a majority, but nevertheless, it was much more than just me. Today, it's a different story. If you Google America is the greatest country on earth, first articles you're going to see will have the heading of America is not the greatest country on earth. So if we want to research this topic, what can our research question be? How about, is America the greatest country on earth? We can find arguments on both sides, and on both sides there are different arguments. There are plenty of mostly conservative radio or media personalities that still espouse how America is great, or in the case of some, that is going to be great again. Individual perspectives are easy to look at, analyze their statement. I thought it might be more fun to look at a group's opinions and give us an idea of how their opinion is formed concerning the United States. Pew Research has some good data for us to look at for this. They have a simple favorable and unfavorable opinion data divided by countries by year. It doesn't go back terribly far for most countries. 2000 is the earliest data they seem to have, and it does show something different than my younger views as a child. America has a pretty balanced, favorable opinion, even among its allies, let alone the negative view of countries we do not have a good working relationship with. Take the country of the United Kingdom. Our two nations have been pretty much joined at the hip since World War II. Favorability rating was 75% in 2002. It's pretty respectable. However, following the invasion of Iraq, the numbers dropped fairly sharply, and even down to 51% in 2007. Now, this would have been the time of the surge in Iraq where the war was seen from the outside as winding down, but as the U.S. called for more troops, it was really not a popular thing at the time. This is obviously not the reason for the entire change, but it would have been a very polarizing event in the minds of the United Kingdom's citizens to have been drawn into an unpopular war by its ally, especially lasting so long. And the United States' favorability isn't just on a downward trend everywhere, though. South Korea had a low of 46% in 2003. At the time, there were some horrible crimes committed by U.S. soldiers stationed in Korea. However, in 2015, that rating was up to 84%. And that's pretty exceptional. Again, the swing in perception is likely tied to the American military presence in the now nuclear capable North Korea. Again, probably not the only factor, but when your crazy neighbor gets crazier, it's probably nice to have a cop living on your block. These are both opinions of longtime allied nations that we do a considerable amount of economic trade with. How about a country less similarly aligned? Turkey has been a nation that used to be heavily backed by the United States, but has not been a reliable ally since the first Gulf War, when the United States did not let Turkey attack the Kurdish people in northern Iraq. In 2000, the favorability was 51%. Not bad, like I said, they used to have a pretty good relationship with Turkey. But when the second Gulf War kicked off and the U.S. failed negotiations with Turkey to use their bases to invade and support an air campaign, on top of which the U.S. allied with the Kurds, who had been engaged in long-term clashes with the Turkish military and government. Now, that rating plummeted to 15% in 2003 and an amazing rate of 9% in 2007. Now, how about our favorite Cold War bad guy, the Soviet Union, or as we call him now, Russia? Well, from 2004 to 2013, the rating was pretty neutral, around 50% the entire time, until Russia was caught trying to attack a new Ukrainian government. The U.S. backed the sovereign nation of Ukraine, resulting in a drop to 15% in 2015. If we look at this data for our research question, perhaps this is not very helpful as the data swings wildly from the impact of the United States foreign policy, and not whether or not people believe America is the greatest nation on earth. As I said earlier, put America is best in your internet search bar, and you'll find that articles and videos saying America is the best are not the first ones to show up. In fact, the first video that pops up on YouTube is a clip from a recent TV show called Newsroom, which is a fictionalized take on the current infotainment-style news shows. And the scene from the pilot episode has a student ask a news anchor in a lecture hall forum-type setting to describe why America is the greatest country on earth. Now, if you've seen the scene, you know he does not answer why it is the best country. He answers how it was and how it should be better, in largely responding with the ranking of life expectancy, literacy, and prison population that the stats would say America is no longer the greatest country on earth. Then the writer of this is Aaron Sorkin, who wrote West Wing and obviously Newsroom, this show. And he's made kind of a career out of making entertainment, out of liberal idealism and how the country should or could be. Well, he isn't espousing that America is the greatest nation on earth. He is, in fact, talking about how it could be and that maybe it once was. And I find the speech in this show to contain the major points of many people's criticism of how America is no longer the great country it is said to be or have been. And despite the torrent of views that say America is no longer the greatest nation, there are people who argue it still is. PragerU, or Prager University, is a YouTube channel run by Dennis Prager, a conservative talk show host, who has various videos attempting to explain that maybe America is still the greatest country. The one I found most interesting is he had an Australian man talking about how, as an outsider, he sees there are many aspects with America that still make it a unique and exceptional place. His leading example is that America still has entrepreneurs that fail multiple times before succeeding, and he states that in other countries, generally that just does not happen with small business owners. He also goes on to say that the world is dependent on America's economic power, and the money it sends out to other countries is a major financial boon to them. And on a less political take on America being great, a less serious person, Ellen DeGeneres had a speech on her show combining comedy and legitimate reasons that America is great. This may have been a dig at the Trump assertion that America needed to be made great again, and it also had used a non-factual statement that America invented the car, which we did not. Nevertheless, it ends with a crescendo chant from the audience, USA, USA. And one other thing I want to point to is the content of political sources for this topic. Sarcasm. Opinions expressing the greatness of America, either for or against, often have a heavy sarcastic tone. In fact, there were some that I came across that I was unsure whether or not they were being sarcastic, through either being hyperbolic or littered with incorrect facts. While my absolute truth no longer rings completely true to me, it has an argument. Of course, that means there are many different views for and against. We live in such a diverse society that one person's reason for it being the greatest is another reasons why it's not the greatest. For example, in our nation, any couple can be married, regardless of gender. This certainly can be held as a positive argument for many people, while there are still many who view it as a negative. My old absolute truth is not any different than any other absolute truth. It was an opinion, and one that could be not concrete in any way. People may have felt that I may have been able to find others that shared this view more readily in the 80s. The fact is that it's an argument, one that will have an indefinite number of views for and against, and have those views expressed through a similar number of different arguments and perspectives. Thank you.